And hello once again, everyone. Andy Lacombe with you on the Friday Night Football Frenzy Extra Edition with Kevin Shea and Jim Wilson from the Worcester Telegram and Gazette, sports editor and Home Team Magazine. And we've had a pretty interesting debate before the show's even started. So let's just get right into things. We're going to talk about divisions, leagues, incentives, things like that. You know, you can't really call yourself the Swickle champ anymore.
No.
I was once a Swickle champ, not in football, but you can't really call. I mean, is the leagues even matter anymore?
You still wear the Letterman's jacket?
Oh yeah, I got it. I got it with the leather sleeves.
The pins on the A.
Yeah, the little
get some free pizza in Auburn. Goes to the Auburn Town Pizza with the Letterman's jacket on, gets a free sub.
Never worked for me, but you know, I mean, is there a Swickle champ? Some teams say, "Hey, I was the Mid-Wash champ."
Yeah,
and then we won the Central Mass thing, but. I mean, does that even matter right now with the system
with the way the system is? No, I don't think it does, and that's the problem. I mean, I think football's trying to serve too many masters here. Where now we're going to chase this alignment, which was Eastern Mass based, as everything else is in MIA. They're going to just whatever they want. Western Mass and Central Mass, you have to adjust on the fly. So, but the way the Central Mass did it. The leagues don't matter. I mean, you have the playoffs like Marlboro and Hudson, Algonquin and Westboro. They all play these league games. Well, not Algonquin and Westboro, but Marlboro and Hudson's a league game on Thanksgiving. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Shrewsbury-Wachusett is a Thanksgiving league game, and so you're having the playoffs, and teams are either resting their starters because they're playing at Gillette, or they're both out of it, and they're all thinking about basketball. But you're still supposed to play for a league title. It's just antiquated, and we can go over this whole thing with, you know. What do you want to do? What do you want to, is Thanksgiving important? Are leagues important? Is the Division 7 title important?
Right.
They got to figure out what they want to do first. But again, they can just get out this whole thing if they just did the whole season, played it after Thanksgiving, but we've been banging that drum for years.
Yeah. Winning the DCL had to be important in the 60s when you played. I mean, right?
That was the most important thing.
Yes.
The most important thing was the league title. Every summer, all you did is work and lift and get ready for the league title. And nothing else mattered. And there was only 3 divisions. We never thought about going to Gillette or winning a Super Bowl. It was beat Concord, beat Lincoln Sudbury, be the DCL champs, and then you got jackets for DCL champs. That's what everyone wanted. That's the way I wish it was. But like you said, leagues are dead. That's history. You don't have any leagues anymore. So I don't understand why teams are allowed to continue to do that. Like, we're going to play this game. They're 2 divisions down, but it's a league game. We're going to play this game on Thanksgiving. It's a league game. No, now you have to go by division only and say, here, we got Division 4, for an example. 8 teams in the division. So there should be 7 divisional games. Every single team should play in the regular season, 7 divisional games, and then you have 1 week where you have to get a non-divisional game. But everyone should be playing the same schedule, essentially. Yeah. Play 7 divisional games because now it's even, and then 1 non-divisional game, and then see where you are for playoffs.
Schaefer Stadium back when you played. In the 80s. In the 80s.
So the benches. Steve Brogan and Stanley Morgan.
I mean, if you throw away, if Thanksgiving has been jeopardized in some way by the playoff system, you've got regular season rivalries. Southbridge and Tantasco have been playing for a long time.
Yes.
Now, I don't think they play anymore. Southbridge is in Division 8. Tantasco's in Division 4. I think they may not be even on the schedule much anymore if they are. I mean, I know it was up till recently. But what incentive do you have now if you're Tantasco to play Southbridge, old league rival?
Right.
They've played this game forever. They've got a trophy. Southbridge has won most of those matchups, by the way, over the years. But now they're way undersized compared to Tantasco. So why even play a game like that?
You can't. I think you get to a point where you say, sorry, we can't play it anymore. We're too small. It doesn't benefit us. It's going to hurt our program. And, you know, like look at Holy Name playing Doherty in week 1 for Holy Name. It was week 2 of the season. But Holy Name, potentially, you could lose your whole season. You have a 25-man team. You're playing a Doherty team that's fast, physical, and strong. You lose 4 starters, you're done. Even though they're in a lower division, they're done for the season. I mean, that's, you know, and they'll realign it at the end of the year and Holy Name won't play them again. But these rivals, and same with St. Peter's and Doherty, that's been a great rivalry for years. And I love covering that game last Friday. The kids, there was a lot of talk on social media, a lot of talk beforehand, because these kids all know each other. A lot of them grew up playing on the same Pop Warner teams, the same Little League teams. But the rivalry's dead because of the size of the schools and the teams.
Right. It's easy to schedule. If you have a league that's 5 games, the Mid-Watch A can just schedule them because they know who they're going to play. They don't have to go out and look for these games. And I think some schools are wanting to keep those traditional rivalries. I think because you got to know, Southbridge
they're not going to the playoffs. Spoiler alert. I'm sorry, I love them. They're trying hard, but they would love to have a gate, because especially once the playoffs start, they're going up to Tingsboro to play, because they're both out of the playoffs. Friends and family are not going to that game, and so you're having the coaching staff and a couple of assorted people on the sidelines. They want to have a game if they can play Tantasqua or something like that, something like a traditional rivalry. They would love to have that game scheduled. But I think if you give these ADs and the coaches a chance at the beginning of the year to have a clean slate, and you think you can compete, find 8 games. If you want to play your league, you can talk to people. If they can create their own schedules, teams like Leicester playing Grafton. It's the Division 7 team versus Division 4 team. Grafton won, but they're it's not as close as it used to be as far as enrollment in these schools anymore. What benefit did Leicester have to play? Because they get 12 points if they win, or they might get 10 points at the game at the power rankings at the end of the year if Grafton wins out. So it's like you got to rethink this stuff now, because back in this is not how we used to do it. Because they used to schedule these things a certain way for the last 30 years, the system changed. They have to change with it.
Yeah, and you're not even playing every team in your division.
No,
which I hate.
If you're in division, if you're I'm just going to say Auburn. We were there in the preseason, and we said, well, you have to play some teams and win your division. It's like, yeah, I'm not sure how many of these teams are even in our division in the schedule.
Right.
So because we're still playing teams, you're playing Northbridge and
the Swickle.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Back when they realigned, it was when Auburn and Northbridge were running roughshod. Nobody wanted to play them, because they were just going to kill them in the regular season.
Right.
So we'll do a Swickle A, which is like Auburn and Northbridge and nobody else.
Right.
And then you have Swickle B and C, which sort of align to certain things. Central Mass Conference is technically the Holy Name, and St. Peter Marian and St. John's.
Right.
St. John's and St. Peter Marian play each other on Thanksgiving. That's it. They don't play. Neither team plays. St. John's doesn't play Holy Name anymore.
No.
So it's like, but why is that technically a league? The
Midwatch
is a league. It's true league. It's the only one left.
I don't even think
Dual Valley Conference.
Don't even have league standings anymore. Don't have league standings. Right. Don't have league stats. Go strictly by division.
But look at I can almost hear Arch yelling from Valley Tech saying he would love to blow up the Colonial League.
He would.
Because what doesn't he'd love to blow up the Colonial. I don't want to speak for you, Arch, but give them at the end of the year. Give them Valley Tech, Bay Path, Worcester Tech, Assabet, and then we'll find 5 other games. That would be perfect for him, because that team will get better. If he knows he has a wagon, he can go out and schedule. Who would want to see Valley Tech Northbridge?
I would love it.
Find those. That allows those schools to find the games they can bring in the gate. And if they're going to be competitive, it's a 2-year cycle. Give a home and home. We'll play you for 2 years. You come here this year. We'll go there next year. It'll be great. It's going to benefit these footballs. And then all of a sudden, the gate, if it dries up at the end of the year because you're playing those non-playoff games, or even the consolation games if you get bounced in the first round, people might actually go to those games because it's a good natural rivalry. Or you at least your schedule during the regular season was good enough with these natural rivalries. Yeah. The games that you play are going to be competitive. You get you can fund the golf uniforms and the cross country trips.
hey, I'm a former golfer here. All right.
You're welcome.
Much love to the golf guys.
Right.
Hey, listen, and girls, you're playing up though. You get points for it. Is there any kind of incentive? You do get a little bit more now, and we just have a couple minutes left in this segment, but. If you're Quabbin and you're going to play Tantasqua, what's that incentive like? Is it worth playing up, or should you just play your league?
It's not. I think right now, coaches, if you gave them the truth serum, would tell you it is not worth playing up. I'll tell you right now, I don't think anyone in Leicester would say it's worth playing up and playing Grafton, a team that's 3 above us, that is a physical team that could have set them back a week or two, just physically what that game was like. I think in what this whole thing is inequity. So say 2 teams, like say Archie wants to play up and say Leicester wants to play up, but the rest of the division doesn't play up. Well, then come playoff time, you say, well, our schedule is much harder. You only played the teams in the division. We played up 2 and lost those games. Everyone's got to have the same rules. You got to, at some point, they have to sit down and say, we have to get a concrete set of rules that if one team in the division is playing up, that means that everyone in the division has to play 1 game up. Now you can argue, is it a stronger team that they're playing up against? But, like St. John's playing Catholic Memorial. They're Division I team in Eastern Mass. Division I team in Eastern Mass. I love that. I think, yes, you should challenge yourself against the best in Eastern Mass. Right. You should challenge yourself against the best in Western Mass. But I think everyone in that division should have to do it. Yeah, it shouldn't be just one team doing it.
So, Jim, is it worth, if I'm a Division 5 team, to schedule a Division 8 team, try to win, get 10 points, or should I be playing a Division 3 team?
That's what people are worried about when there's always these conspiracy theorists who think that, well, they're going to pick on these bigger teams that are in the upper division. but they're gonna finish 1-8. So they get 12, 14 points because if they happen to win a couple games here and there, it's a pretty good. They can power up those power ranking points and sort of couch their losses in their own league. But I mean, I don't know how aggressive people are in kind of doing that kind of stuff.
It's football, though. You want to challenge your teams.
I would think.
Right. Oh yeah,
right?
I would think so.
Yeah. Let's go and get a challenge every single week, and if we lose, we're going to be better for it.
If you can get, if you can go into the playoffs,
Archie's been like that from the get-go, and so is Jeff Cormier at Auburn. He's always said that. Let's go play DY, Division V reigning Super Bowl champs. Instead of an easier game in Central Mass. Let's go. Let's play.
You go into playoffs at 7-1, but playing nobody.
Right.
And then how does that help your team? If your biggest game, like St. John's, I think we said it last week, Catholic Memorial would be the biggest game that St. John's played. They're not going to see a team as good as that all year.
Right. And look at all those sacks you took against Maynard all those years ago. Look what it's done for you.
The cautionary tale.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're back. We're talking about big games coming this week. We're talking about the Frenzy 5 as well. Stay with us on the Extra. All right, welcome back. Big games this week. Week 5, believe it or not. So now you're going to have to, Willie, you're going to start crunching those power ratings.
I just before I left, I was formulating my power rankings.
A big one. A big one to start crunching this week. Let's start with it. Kevin, you're going to get some mail on this one. St. John's and Shrewsbury. And it's a big one. It's a big one. I mean, it depends on some health issues, of course, but St. John's coming off a big win over Wachusett. And what do you like in this game?
I haven't gotten my injury report yet.
Right.
That's what we need. We need
that.
My push for a high school injury report is unheard for another year.
This is it right here.
Because if Campanelli is hurt, he hurt his shoulder last week in a week in North Leominster. If he's how is he? Is he 100%? Is he 80%? Is the good thing is I heard he was there for the end of the game. So if Drew is hopefully he's healthy because he's one of the best guys in Central Mass. And you want to see good things for him in the team. You don't want it to end like that.
Right.
So you figure if he was really hurt, he'd be getting tested in an ambulance and he wouldn't see the end of the game.
Sure.
So he's obviously a big factor.
This is a big game for both teams.
It's huge.
It's a battle for Shrewsbury.
Yeah, even beyond playoffs and everything else, this is the bragging rights game, and this is the biggest game on every team, each of these two schools' schedules. Whether they would admit it or not and say, hey, every week's a big game, this is a huge game for them. If Drew Campanelli's there, and I hope he is, because you want this game to be two teams at full strength. If not, Clint Mills, I saw that game was part of it last week, Shrewsbury beating Leominster. Clint Mills came in, he threw a halfback option pass for a touchdown. Then when Campanelli got hurt, he came in, he directed the offense very well. He was confident, he was sure of himself. He throws a really good ball. He directed him downfield for a few touchdowns. He's very capable. Now, Drew Campanelli's in a league of his own in terms of how tough he is, how fast he is, how he reads defenses and puts so much pressure on opposing defenses. But if they go in with Clint Mills, their backup quarterback playing, Shrewsbury by no means is this game over. Shrewsbury's, their offensive line is huge too. I mean, they were coming off the field, and I'm looking at some of these kids going, look at the size of their arms. They're bigger than my legs. They have a big, big front line, and that's still where the game's going to be won or lost. And and if you're playing St. John's, you got to try to put a parachute on their big guys, on Dennis, on Brunel, on Shea Gallo. Just contain them if you can, contain the big play, because that's where they kill you is the big plays.
Clint Mills sounds like he plays in the Big 12.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let me tell you about Clint Mills. Man, he can sling the rock.
Coming out of Odessa, Texas.
Oh, yeah. He's a Friday Night Lights name right there. It's a great name. Shrewsbury, what game? This is a Shrewsbury team that proves themselves if they beat St. John's. And it's a St. John's team that proves they're back.
Right.
And they're not in the shadow of last year's state championship team if they beat Shrewsbury. It's a lot riding on this game. Shrewsbury, all those seniors, they didn't beat them last year. They had opportunities. It's a big one for Shrewsbury. I think if they're healthy, I don't know. It's a great game.
And St. John's is playing really well last
What time's that game? I'm going to have to sneak out of the one we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Is St. John's is now coming into it where offensively they're a lot more confident now.
Yeah.
And you have – I think they're kind of finding out who their weapons are and where their weapons work, too. They get the ball to Dennis in space, maybe get him in the backfield a little bit, little screens, little circle routes out of the backfield. It's a high percentage pass, and it's just get him the ball in space, let him make moves and go. With Brunel, drive the ball downfield because he's 6'2", 200, running a 4.5 40. There are very few. There's no one physically that's going to match up with him, no safety in Central Mass. So just hang it up there and let him go get it. And I think that's what they've had a lot of success with.
John Andreoli, winningest coach, right?
Yep.
Yeah, in St. John's history.
Congratulations to Coach Andreoli. That's a big accomplishment. That's a lot of football being played there. And it's just, you go to his practice, I feel like I'm at Holy Cross's practice or a college practice. He really prepares these kids very well for the next
Think
level.
of the teams they've had. I mean, just the teams throughout the years and the coaches they've had. To be the winningest coach in that school history in football, that's saying something. Tony Wood was the previous winningest coach. Tony Wood's great. And you look at, some of his coaching trees, Steve Pachalia, who's there now, he coached with Tony Wood. So, I mean, there's a lot of history there, and that's a great accomplishment.
All right, let's get off that game for a second. Shrewsbury, Shepherd Hill, and Wachusett. It's another one. This one, I think, becomes huge for playoff position now.
It's big.
When you have a couple of 2-2 teams, and Wachusett coming off the loss to St. John's. Always had maybe a little bit of trouble with Shepherd Hill, although they beat them last year with Kevin Mensah on that roster.
And they got, with Wachusett, they're 2-2, but look at those 2 losses. At Doherty, they had a game that could have gone either way. They lost, 14-7. They had St. John's, and I'm sure it's not going to be a very fun week of practice at Wachusett after letting St. John's score, 24 points in the fourth quarter. I don't know if they let their foot off the gas at St. John's just all of a sudden got hot, but they got to be chapped going into this one, and Shepherd Hill could run into a buzzsaw. Because, I mean, Shepherd Hill sort of right in the ship. They had a good win over Algonquin last week, one of those don't break a sweat, in and out with a shutout. But Wachusett's going to come in. They got to get something to prove because they can't fall too far behind in this playoff race.
Well, I think Wachusett comes in angry, and I think if anything Wachusett takes from that game against St. John's, they scored 31 points. They should be pretty happy with their offense and the way that they move the ball and the consistency that they had offensively, and even moving the ball down the end. It's the pick six that wins it on the other side, but you still drove the ball and you're driving the ball. That's what I would take is that look at offensively, we should be playing with confidence. And with a swagger, we just move the ball up and down the field.
There's nothing to reinvent the wheel there. I think they just keep doing what they're doing, and I think they should be okay. They're just going to fine-tune some things.
All right, let's get out of D3. Just a couple more minutes left on this segment. West Boylston and Lunenburg, a big one. You got a couple undefeateds going head-to-head, and Rossi's power offense. Lunenburg is moving the ball really well right now. It's a big one. It's a big measuring stick where you are, and both teams probably get to the playoffs where they're going to land.
Yeah, and I think Lunenburg coming off a big win. They came back against Narragansett last week. Anthony Iannacci is one of the best backs that nobody really talks about because he plays up in Lunenburg. And you look at that schedule, but I think he puts up points. He's going to get 100 yards every game. He's a bulldozer kind of guy, kind of back. He's going to pose a lot of problems. I like Chris Kostic as quarterback. He has some good weapons. Mason Infantino, Donovan Powell, Cameron McKenzie. I think he's got some guys he can throw the ball to. I think they can give West Boylston a good battle. But West Boylston, they've been tested all year. I think they have. Air Shirley was undefeated last week. They had a pretty good win over them. But, they played Leicester. They played Littleton. Always plays them tough. They seem to play as big as they can in the bigger the stage.
I think that's it. I think they rise to the level of the team that they're playing. And one thing about this West Boylston team is it's not just double wing or bust. They can throw the football. So if you just put 8 guys, 9 guys in the box, they'll feast on it and they'll throw it deep.
All right, we've got a couple minutes to talk about our Frenzy 5 for this week, and I want to see if anything's changed from last week. Those are inveterate viewers. Not much has changed for me. My Frenzy 5, I still have Shrewsbury number 1, Doherty number 2, Neshoba with a convincing or a good win over Marlborough, hard-fought win. St. John's I move up from me to 4, and Grafton, to no fault of their own, is 5. It's just a big win over Wachusett for St. John's. Any major changes with Kevin? You had Doherty first.
No, I still have Doherty number 1. Yeah, they look great. They look great against St. Peter Marion again. It's a lot of weapons. It's a lot of different weapons, and they can beat you in different ways. They can just ground and pound it and say we're coming straight at you between the tackles. They can throw it over the top. They can throw the screens. Terry Wallace will take what you give him.
And they got Leominster this week, and Leominster is like Wachusett. Leominster is another one of those teams that's much better than their record indicates. So, and I think Doherty's happy they can finally, get a opponent they can open up things on. They're gonna probably play all 4 quarters for the first time in a while. So I think that they're looking forward to this kind of challenge.
Probably some shakeup in the Frenzy 5 next week, though.
They could be. Mine's still the same. I still have Shrewsbury, and Doherty, St. John's, Grafton, Neshoba. I think those are 5 solid teams. And after the first, I think it's Shrewsbury and Doherty back for the first 2 spots. And I can't argue with either one of the number 1 these guys.
Yeah.
And I moved Neshoba into the top 5. I didn't have I had Marlborough in my top 5, and I moved.
That was a good win.
Neshoba
That's always a great
game. But it comes down to. Marlborough had a field goal attempt to tie the game up late in the game, and they missed it, but they were close. It wasn't like they were trying to kick a 60-yarder. So if I'm looking forward to a rematch in the playoffs with these 2 teams, and I look at that division with Grafton, that's a great division.
All the way.
That's the thing.
It's one of those rematches we were talking about earlier that would work. They play in the regular season, and they, I can't wait for these guys to play again.
Part of our big games coming up on the Frenzy in Week 5. Shepherd Hill, Wachusett. You'll see North Middlesex, Westboro, West Boylston, and Lunenburg. Bartlett, Leicester's another one. And, of course, the St. John's game with Shrewsbury is on Saturday. That'll do it, believe it or not, for another couple segments with these two guys. Kevin and I are back to wrap it up and talk a little college football when we come back on the Extra. Jim Wilson, we'll see you next week.
I'll be over there on my phone.
All right,
guys.
Thanks for being here. We'll be back in a few minutes with the Frenzy Extra.